19th day of Menachem Av, and we are up to Daf Yud Gimel Amud Beis in Maseches Pesachim. The Gemara had asked the question with regards to the end of Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. The Gemara had discussed the Psak Halacha of Rav Nachman and of Rebbe that we seem to be passing according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. And then we got into the question of how we know this, proving it from the Gabbai of the Tamchui and the Gabbai of Tzedakah, that there was the additional dinim. The person should always make sure that they are not the person that is dipping into a pikadon or tzedakah. Towards the bottom of Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, the Gemara had told us, Amar Rav Yosef Kamana Asla Hashman the Rebbe. Who does this opinion of Rebbe go according to? Karaban Shimon ben Gamliel. It goes in accordance with the opinion of Rabban Shimon Gamliel. Dithnan, as the Brisa tells us, Hamafkid Peres Ezel Chaver, if a person leaves produce next to their friend, I feel him avudim, even if they're getting lost, Lo Yigabayim, you should not touch them. Meaning you should let them get destroyed, because you have to be naki. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that you should make sure to sell it because of Hashavas Aveda. So Abaye now challenges this statement of Rav Yosef. Amar le Abaye. Abaye says to Rav Yosef, "V'lav itmar alai, was it not said about this case?" Amar Rav Rachana, the Rav Rachana said, Amar Rav, in the name of Rav Yochanan, Lo yishanu ela bichdei, this is the top of Yud Gimel Amud Beis, bichdei chesronan, aval Yosef chesronan meichron beisin. That the debate only exists if the produce is decreasing bichdei chesronan in a normative way, meaning if it day by day it's getting less appealing. So then that's where the machlokas between Rabbi Shimon Gamliel and the Tanna Kama would exist. But if they are rotting rapidly, everybody agrees that you should sell it in based in and how much more so here with regards to chametz and erev Pesach, da sidig legamre, because it's going to lose all of its value. Meaning, by the time the Shas Isur chametz kicks in by 6 hours of the day, according to everybody, midaraisa, then everybody should agree that you should sell that chametz. V'oid, and furthermore, Amar Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda shtei chalos. There was the additional case that Rabbi Yehuda had spoken about, that now the Gemara is going to deal with. V'oid Amar Rabbi Yehuda shtei chalos l'chole. Rabbi Yehuda had said that there were 2 chalas that were put on top of the itztava, that people would see when was the time to eat the chametz, when was the time to be told to wait, when was the time that you had to burn the chametz. Tani Tana Kama de Rav Yehuda. There was a Tana that taught us in front of Rav Yehuda. When we say Tana, what that means is not that there was a Tana, but in every base marriage there was a person that was the Shalom Meshiv. He was the guy that was Baki. He knew all of the Mishnayos and all of the Brises and all of the Seftas. So he was called the Tana, the reader of the statement of the Tanaim. It seems to be that in general, people still didn't learn Mishnah from a text. They learned it Baal Peh. Almost no interest. We find that there was a guy that learned Mishnayos from a book of Mishnayos. They learned the Mishnayos Baal Peh, and when they had a question, they would go and speak to the Tana. Means the Shalom Meshiv in the Beis Medrash that knew the Mishnayos. So when the Tana was saying over the Mishnah in front of Rav Yehuda, Al Gav Ha'itztava, he said Al Gav Ha'itztava Amarle. He said to him, Rav Yehuda said back to him when he said Al Gav Ha'itztava on top on the back of the Itztava, says V'chira Atzniya Utzarech. He said, what, do you need to hide them? Meaning put them on top of the bench of the Itztava. So he says Tani Al Gaga Itztava, that you had to put it not Al Gav, which would be on the itztava, but al gav, on the roof of ha-itztava, which would be a different place, apparently. So, what exactly is this al gaga itztava? So, Rashi points out here al gaga itztava al hakise mamish, that there was a bench that was on Harabais. So, on that bench, that's where we thought you had to put it. And Rav Yosef said, "V'chila atzniya." Says, they're there so that people will see them. Rather, you have to say that this was al gag ha'itztava, the gag that was built on top. Rashi says, so there was the itztava, and then there was a roof, like an awning, that was put on top there, and then they would put the chalas there so that everybody would be able to see them. Amar Rav Yehuda, Rachva said the name of Rav Yehuda, Har Habayis Stav Kafel Hoya. What exactly was the architecture of Har Habayis? So it says Stav Kafel Hoya. It was a colonnade inside of a colonnade. Column, like meaning column by column by column by column, and then there was one on the outside and one on the inside, and there was a gag that was in between these two colonnades. And that was the gag that we're talking about. Rav Yehuda says, "Istavonis haisa nikres." It was called an istavonis. Stav lifnim mistav, which was columns inside of columns. Okay, and that was the architecture. That's where they would put it. So he said that you have to put this on al gag ha-itztava. What do you need to put there? Is chalas psulas. You have to have chalas of Todah that apostle. We pointed out before that the chalas that we are talking about are chalas of Todah. They're the only things that would be chametz, aside from the shtei halachan that was brought to on Shavuos. Now the Gemara asks the question: well, every year they had chalas psulos. Why would you have so many chalas psulos? So chalas psulos, amai psulos. Why were they psulos? Amar Rabbi Chanina says, Rabbi Chanina mitach shayu merubos. Since there were so many of them nifsalos belina, they became puzzle as a result of being left over overnight. Why were there so many that they were left overnight? Because the Brisa says, "Ein mevin todah b'chag hamatzos mipnei chametz shabai." The halacha is that you don't bring a korban todah on chag hamatzos on Pesach. Mipnei chametz shabai. You're not allowed to bring a korban todah. Says the Gemara Pshita. Well, obviously, that's obvious. You can't bring it. So Amar Rav Adabar Abba says, no. That's what we're talking about on the 14th. Because in Mevin Kachim, Lebeis Apsul, there's a chiddush that you can still bring it on the 14th, even though it's going to be brought to Beis Apsul, even though it's going to end up that it's going to become puzzle. Meaning they would bring the Korban Todah on Erev Pesach. And what he's saying is that this Rav Barahav is saying that this Tana of this Brisa is telling you means that's obvious. Why you what's the chiddush? Yeah, is that you're not allowed to bring it on Erev Pesach, which is also sometimes called Chag HaMatzos or Chag HaPesach, because you don't want to bring the kachim to Beis Hapsul. Says the Gemara, but nevertheless, everybody agrees that you can bring your Korban Todah on Erev Pesach, meaning on the 13th of Nisan. So everybody would bring. You come to Yerushalayim, you want to make sure that you can bring the Korbanos. You're therefore Ali ala Regel. So you would bring all the Korbanos that you have to bring, and amongst the Korbanos that you have to bring are Korban Todah, because you're up in the Beit HaMikdash, you want to bring your Korban Todah. And now you're going to have tons and tons of chametz that are being brought to Yerushalayim. Erev Pesach says the Gemara Nifsalas Belina. Now this is going to become possible by being left overnight, meaning it's no longer going to be edible. Says the Gemara Mishum Rabbi Yanai Amra, and in the name of Rabbi Yanai they said Ksheres Hayu. They were kosher. They weren't puzzle, meaning they brought on the 13th. You could eat it for that night and that day. Ella amakarle psulos. Why were they called puzzle? Shaloi nishchar alem hazavach, because the korban was not shechted. the korban was not shechted for them. So this is an interesting is an interesting consideration with a long Rashi. We'll see a little bit of the Rashi because it's good to understand it inside. What exactly is Rabbi Yanai suggesting here? Meaning not that they were psulos, but they were ksheros. He says, "Kolomer afil lo hayu lahen psul gadol galida." Even if they were not super puzzle, like they had been left overnight and now they could no longer be eaten. Shem kvar l'shev, because now you have to burn them already. Afilu hachi, even in such a case, ma'achar she'ein lahem takana le'achel, since there is no way of eating them in a permissible fashion. Va'afilu hen adayin tu'unas ibur tzura, and since they still need more stuff to be done to them, ya'avin l'hu hasan, they bring it there. Ve'hechi dami, and what is this case? Kagain, says Rashi. Korban was not shechted for them. They were set aside to be used for a korban, so they have kedushas damim. They have kedusha in the monetary value. Since they were set aside in order to be used for the korban. Ve'in lahem heter, and now you cannot use them ad shishchad alehem hazevach, until the korban taila was shechted, v'yizak adam, and the blood was thrown on the mizbech. The lachem toida in kedushas haguf, because they don't have kedushas haguf, ela b'shchitas hazevach, until the korban is going to be shechted. What exactly is the difference between kedushas haguf and kedushas damim? Kedushas haguf means this item itself has kedusha. Kedushas damim means the value of this item has kedusha, but it itself does not. It could be exchanged for something else, and there's a lot to speak about with regards to kedushas haguf versus kedushas damim, but it would be a lower level of psul. So this is breads that were set aside to be used for a korban, but the korban wasn't shechted. They didn't end up shechting that korban. So why not? You should suddenly go ahead and shecht it. So you say, no, we're talking about she'avat hazevach. She'avat hazevach means that you lost the korban, and if you lost the korban, so then you would have to go. Then that korban wasn't brought. Now that bread is sitting out there without anybody being able to do anything with it, because it has kedushas damim. So you can't you can't just chuck it, but you also can't eat it, because it was set aside to be used with the korban. Since so says the Gemara, no problem, just bring another korban. Anytime that you have a korban that the animal gets lost, you have to bring another korban. The Amar, as we say, zu taida v'zu lachma. This is the taida, and this is its bread. Uchta Rabba, and it goes in accordance with the opinion of Rabba. The Amar Rabba, avad halechem, if you lost the bread, maybe lechem acher, you bring more bread. Avad taida, if you lost the korban taida, ain maybe taida acheret, you cannot bring another korban taida. My time, what's the reason? Lechem glal taida, ve'ain taida glal lechem. The korban taida comes as a result. The lechem comes as a result of the korban taida, but the taida doesn't come as a result of the lechem, which means that you would need more lechem. You need new lechem if you bring a taida acheres. Says the Gemara, "V'nifkarinu v'nafkinu l'chulin." So, what should we do? We should be part of this, make it into and make it into chulin. Meaning, you should be part onto money, and then you'd be able to use it as chulin, and then it's no longer chayav shreifa. You don't need to burn it. Says the Ella, rather, no, it's not that it wasn't shechted. It was that the korban was shechted on it. But the blood, instead of being sprinkled on the mizbech, was spilt instead. Meaning the kohen messed up. He spilt it before it got to the mizbech. The kohen tripped. He spilt the blood, and now the kabbalah sadam that was done for this animal was not nizrak al gam mizbech. What happens now? What are you supposed to do? It says the Gemara, Kaman, whose opinion does this go according to? Rebbe, this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the Amar Rebbe, Shnei Dvarim Hamatirim, two things that are matir, meaning to be matir the bread to be able to be eaten. Malin zeh below zeh. Each one of them are necessary. They are necessary. Rashi says malin also mala achas likodesh begufa va'afal pi she'ena nita ad shetava hashniya. Meaning both of them create kedusha haguf, but it's not mutter until you have both of them. What are they? The Tanya, we have a brayso. Kiv say atzeres ein mekadshim es alechem ela b'shchita. The kvasim of atzeres of Shmini not of Shmini atzeres of Shavuos. That's atzeres in Chazal. In mekadshim es alechem, they are not going to be mekadesh the lechem ela b'shchita. You need the animal to be shechted. Keitzad, how? Shachtan lishma v'zarek daman lishman kiddush halechem. You have to shech the animal and you have to do zrikas hadam. That is going to provide the kedusha for the lechem. And at that point in time, now that lechem has reached its full status, what if it only got halfway? So this is the continuation of the brayso. Shachtan shaloi lishman. If you shechted it, shaloi lishman, meaning not for the sake of the karban for Shavuos, v'zar daman shaloi lishman, or you sprinkled the blood on the mizbech shaloi lishman, not for the sake of this karban, lo kiddush alechem, then the bread never gets its kedusha. Shachtan lishman, what happens if you did shecht it appropriately, correctly? V'zar daman shaloi lishman, and then you did zrikas adam, you sprinkled the blood without having the right intention. Lechem kadosh ve'ino kadosh divrei Rabbi. The bread is kadosh, but not kadosh. It is kadosh in the sense that it now has kedushas haguf, which means that it cannot be nifteh. You cannot be podet. You can't redeem it out to money, but it doesn't have kedusha to the extent that you can eat it. So now you cannot do anything with it. So now you can't you can't do anything with it. So you have to, the only thing left is to burn it. Rabbi Shimon says, "La enam ein kodesh alechem." Nah, the lechem is not going to be kodesh. It only gets full kedusha once everything is done correctly. And then the Gemara says it is possible that everybody would agree in our case. I feel Rabbi Shimon. You could even say that our case goes in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. What are we talking about? Meaning there was Kabbalah's hadam. It was Kabbalah. Appropriately, they did the shchita, and then they did the Kabbalah. There are 4 avodas that you have by the karban. You have the shchita, the shechting of the karban. You have the Kabbalah's hadam, where the blood is collected in a cup. Then you have the halacha that's taken to the mizbech, and then you have the zrikas hadam, where it is sprinkled onto the mizbech. And Rabbi Shimon also said that the bread only gets its kedusha if there was kedusha if there was shchita lishman and there was zrika lishman. But in our case, hacham askinan shenis kabel adam, because it was accepted in the cup, it was received in the cup that it was done v'nishbach, and it wasn't that there was no lishma, it spilled. For Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon Zavar like Avua. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon holds like his tati. The Amar. What did Rabbi Shimon say? That would call anything that is ready to be spilt on the mizbech, meaning to be thrown on the mizbech, because zarek dami we can already consider as if it was zarek, as if it was thrown on the mizbech, in the sense that you still have to do it, but the things that need to kick in to take effect as a result of the zrikas adam will already have taken effect. For example, the lechem will already have its full kedusha by the time that it is about to be zarek. Tana. The Tosefta says in the name of Rabbi Lazar, Mishum Rabbi Lazar, they said in the name of Rabbi Lazar, ksheros hayu, that they were actually ksheros, meaning these loaves of lachem Torah were kosher. Kol zman shemunachos kol ha'am achlin, and for as long as they were sitting there, everybody was eating. Everybody was eating the from their own chametz. Nitla achas mehem. And if one of them was taken away, Tolen, that is when we are going to suspend our eating of chametz. We're not going to eat and we're not going to burn. Nitlu shtehem. And if both of them were taken away, then everybody is going to begin burning the chametz. Which means that this din of Rabbi Yehuda, that on Erev Pesach they would eat until the 4th hour. This is also in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, and the way that he taught it was that not that they were psulos, but that they were ksheros, because they were ready to they could have been brought, except for the fact that the blood was not spilt. So they had their full state of kedusha. They were ksheros, but the korban was never brought. So that's why they were going to end up being burnt, because the korban that they were supposed to be eaten with, they could not be eaten together with. Now, with regards to these halachas of the korban todah on Erev Pesach and on Pesach itself, this has an afamina in our davening today, in one or possibly two separate areas, and this is machlokes minhagim. Everybody agrees that on Pesach and on Erev Pesach, we do not say Mizmor l'Soda Harei L'Shem Kol Haaretz. We don't say that. And the reason we don't say it is because that is in place of a korban todah. And since the korban todah was brought with chametz, we don't say Mizmor l'Soda. There are those also that hold that in the piyut kakeli, we leave out the word v'lasoda. So kakeli v'gali, and then the next line, this is the piyut that the Chazan sings before Musaf. In general, we start v'lasoda v'la'ola v'lamincha v'lachatas. So there are some that hold that, you see this in some of the Svarim of Minhagim, that during Pesach you don't say the word v'lasoda, because it would be irrelevant on this Yantif, meaning even in the days of the Beis Hamikdash, we would not say, we wouldn't be bringing korban todah. So there's no meaning to mentioning it in the piyutim of Musaf or before Musaf, and there's no reason to mention it on Erev Pesach either. It's worth pointing out that there's some that argue that you are also not supposed to say, and this is our minhag, we don't say Mizmor l'Soda on. We don't say Mizmor l'Soda on Erev Yom Kippur either, because of the concern that you are going to be mema'it in the achilas todah, that they wouldn't let you bring a korban todah on Erev Yom Kippur either. Because how much time do you have? You have today, tonight, and tomorrow to eat your korban todah. But if it's going to be Yom Kippur, then nobody's going to be eating it. So they didn't allow you to bring the korban todah on Erev Yom Kippur either. To be continued tomorrow. Everybody should have a wonderful and beautiful day.